and welcome to West Country Wanderings. Welcome to my monthly vlog. I think it's part number 28. It's been so long now since I've been doing these monthly vlogs, and if you're new to the format, if you're a recent subscriber, I've gained quite a few subscribers over the past month. I come to a new location each month in the West Country Wanderings region. We have a look around and then I tell you a little bit about what's been happening on the channel and read out the very best of your comments of the month. So where are we today? Well, we're in the county of Wiltshire, and today's video will be a two-part video, well, two locations. We're starting off in the market town of Highworth. In fact, it is the highest market town in the whole of the county of Wiltshire, which is a large, mainly rural county. We're about 6 miles northeast of the town of Swindon, large town of Swindon. In fact, we're coming to Swindon Borough area here. And also, we are not far from the Gloucestershire town of Lechlade upon Thames, which is where the Thames and Severn Canal ends its journey into the River Thames. So that's just a few miles away from here. We're also quite close to the Oxfordshire border as well, and the town of Farringdon. So that's where we are. Just to tell you though, that Highworth used to be much bigger than the town of Swindon before Swindon was a twinkle in Isambard Kingdom Brunel's eye GWR railway town, of course, before it really expanded in the 19th century. Highworth was a much more important place. We'll have a look around here. I'll insert some photographs as we go on the video here today. So I hope you can join me again here on West Country Wanderings on the monthly vlog. Now, Highworth is known for its Queen Anne style and Georgian buildings. I'll insert some photographs now so you can see what they look like. Some magnificent examples here. It's really good to see that the town is completely unspoiled from the developments of the 60s we've seen elsewhere here on West Country Wanderings. However, the church of St Michael's and All Saints behind me is 13th century. The original name for the town was Wrde, W-R-D-E, and that's how it's referred to in the Domesday Book. And that word actually comes from the word worth, which is what it's called now, which means enclosure. The high part of the word of Highworth, to make up the town Highworth, wasn't added until later on in the 12th century. That was, of course, added because it is high. As I said, it's the highest town in Wiltshire. During the English Civil War, Highworth was a royalist stronghold, but on the 17th of June 1645, Sir Thomas Fairfax's troops took hold of the town. Now, on the side of the church, you should be able to make out where a cannonball struck the church, and there is a replica of that cannonball that struck the church inside the church. If it's open, I'll see if I can get a photograph of that. Now, although the large GWR town of Swindon is just down the road, some 6 miles down the road, Highworth itself doesn't have a railway station, although it used to. It was a later addition. It was actually an independent run railway, a light railway, which ran from the town here of Highworth into the town of Swindon. Part of the route still can be traced, although the site of the station is now gone and it's been completely built over. It kind of enters in, a stub of it still remains there. I think it's now like a freight depot, and it's close to where the former factories are around that area. I think it's called Stratton. I think there were 3 independent stations on the line. The line closed, not in beaching times though, as early as 1954. I think the main reason for that was that the bus service was quicker than the railway one into the town of Swindon, although that's probably no longer the case, and I'm sure the townsfolk here would gladly still have their railway here. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go on a bit of a tour around the town, and I'll come back here and tell you a little bit about what's been happening on the channel for the month of October 2023. So we start off with this beautiful collection of buildings here, Manor Garden and Manor House, right at the end of the High Street by the square. So there's the church where I started today's monthly vlog, and that's the market square there. Sadly now full of cars, but one time it would have been full of traders. Now opposite the marketplace is the tremendous Saracen's Head Inn. I've just noticed this blue plaque to the left here. That's the one there. Just zoom in on that, and it shows that the town was granted a borough charter in 1262 to enable it to hold a weekly Wednesday market and an annual fair on the Feast of St Michael, and that was granted by King John. Highworth is full of traditional little towns like this Highworth hardware shop here next to the old bakery, which is now a wine bar, and they also serve food there as well. You have these quaint little lanes that run around the town. It's really good to see. And that's looking down the main high street, the hustle bustle of the shops there. The first video that landed this month was actually a short bite. I'd spent a bit of time down in Devon, South Devon, in fact around the town of Brixham. Still got some more videos from that place to edit. But I put up a video at the South Devon town of Paynton, a very, very popular town. Just tell you a little bit how that video came about. I was waiting to catch my train back to Gloucestershire, so I had my luggage with me. It was a very, very nice afternoon. I sat down on the sea wall there, overlooking the seafront and the pier and the boats entering the harbour. And I hadn't even had in mind to do a video, and I just took my camera out, wasn't even putting it on a tripod or anything, and just filmed what I could see, sat just in that one position, just by changing the angles and using my zoom lens. I had a terrific comment on that video from Kathy. Hi Kathy, great comment, I love this comment. The clips were just long enough to enjoy the sea breathing and the waves washing. That's brilliant bit of writing there, Kathy, thank you. I liked that you did not pan. I feel that I've been to the sea today. Oh, thank you very much. That was generally the idea, is get people into the atmosphere of the sea. I did put on my little shotgun microphone, so it had reasonably good sound to it, so you could hear the sea coming and going on that. But thanks very much for that, Kathy. And thank you very much if you watched that video or liked or shared it or commented on it. It was really a pleasure to that one. It's probably one of the easiest videos I've ever made, literally just sat in the one position there. Back in September, I was down in North Somerset in the town of Portishead. I met up there with Louise, and we had a great day there, enjoying the town there, seeing all the restoration that had taken place in that fabulous town in North Somerset. Well, part 2 of that video landed, and it's really, really popular. I tried to make it a really good kind of feel good using different music, because it was such an enjoyable day there, and the sun came out and there was lots of music taking place in the town. But we also went on down to the promenade, where there was a large boating lake. I had a terrific comment on that from a gentleman called Richard Wadley. Thank you very much for your comment, Richard. It really gives some informative information about how that promenade and lake was built. The lake grounds and its protecting esplanade were another Bristol project just before World War I by unemployed men reclaiming a previously marshy area. Bristol owned a lot of land in Portishead in those days and had a hand in many projects, including the Nautical School and the Nor House Orphanage. Thank you very much for that comment, Richard. And I will return to Portishead. It'll probably be going into next year now, because I'm still kind of quite committed with video projects for the rest of the year, including some Christmassy things as well. But next year I hope to do the railway line that ran from Bristol to Portishead, which they're hoping to reopen. Also, there was another railway line, a light railway, which went on to Clevedon and Weston-super-Mare. So there'll be 2 separate videos on that, and I would like to explore more of the shoreline in that area. Now, when I do these monthly vlogs, I like to tell you about some of the notable people that came for the town, and Highworth is no exception, has quite a few. One of them was a gentleman called Eric Buller, B-U-L-L-E-R, who was an army captain. As well as being an army captain, he was a notable cricketer. Another gentleman was William Jocelyn Arkell. I've never come across that as a middle name, particularly for a man before, but yeah, he was born in this town, and he was a notable geologist. A great connection to the West Country because he was a leading authority on the Jurassic coast. Obviously that's in East Devon and Dorset, some way away from here, but he uncovered a lot of the secrets of that fabulous coastline down there. And another name from the past, from the I think late 50s, it's carried on into the 60s, and I do believe she is still touring, is a singer called Helen Shapiro, and she lived in Highworth for some time. We're going to say goodbye to Highworth now. It's not the end of the monthly vlog though. We're going to go over to a nearby village of Sevenhampton. Now, just to avoid confusion, there are 2 villages called Sevenhampton in this kind of area. One of them lies in Gloucestershire, but this one lies just outside the town of Highworth here in Wiltshire. So we'll pop over there now. I'll tell you a bit about that village as well. Have a look at that church. There was a very famous person that lived in Sevenhampton. It's also buried in the churchyard. All will be revealed later in the vlog. Now I've come round to the lovely village of Sevenhampton in Wiltshire. We're just about 2 miles outside of the town of Highworth where we were earlier. Yes, don't worry, the cows can't get any closer to the camera because there is a ha-ha here. Quite a steep drop here between where I am on the corner of the churchyard here and where the cows are. So, but they'll make a backdrop to quite a bit of the rest of this part of the video here. But I wanted to bring you around here for a number of reasons. I hadn't actually heard of Sevenhampton in Wiltshire until very, very recently. I have been familiar with the one in Gloucestershire, but not this one here. Now, if you do decide to come to visit Sevenhampton and the church and the grounds that surround it for yourselves, be warned that parking here is very, very difficult. I actually turned down a lane which goes to a farm shop. I didn't go all the way to the farm shop, and you'll find parking down there. There's kind of a longish lay-by off that country lane, which is a no-through road, going to that. And I've walked back into the centre of the village, was on a fairly busy road heading towards Shrivenham, and then back around on a public footpath to where I am at the churchyard here. There's no road access to the church itself and no parking outside of it, which is kind of the usual arrangement, but not this time. But anyway, been rewarded by this wonderful church here. Sadly, it's closed, but it's in the most glorious setting. Next video on the channel was one of my railway series, and it was Gloucestershire and Warwickshire Steam Railway Part 6, a journey to Broadway. And I had one of my subscribers to thank for this. She gave me a free ticket. It's a lady called Dawn, and she's a shareholder. She gave me a free ticket to go on the railway, which was really, really good. And I did some shots out the windows with the old type windows on those trains. From the vestibule you can lower the window down, so I put the camera on a tripod to get some nice steady shots of the views as we're heading up to the Worcestershire and Cotswold village of Broadway. Great comment on that. It's from Malcolm Richardson. Thank you for a very enjoyable trip on this beautifully preserved heritage railway. Let's hope the renovation and the restoration of the Stanway Viaduct is successfully completed soon, and that the GWSR finances recover sufficiently to make it possible to begin the journey to Honeybourne. So yeah, if you're not familiar with that line, not watched that video, they are hoping a long-term plan to extend it so it joins the main line at Honeybourne, which it used to do when it was the line, the GWR line from Cheltenham Spa to Stratford upon Avon, and it crosses over the Cotswold line, which goes from Oxford to Worcester, and that would happen at a place called Honeybourne. So then it would reach, should I say, mainline trains, enable them to get more visitors in by rail, so they can then pop down to Broadway via steam trains and on to Cheltenham. But yeah, thank you very much for that comment, Malcolm. I hope you enjoyed that, and again, once again, Dawn, thanks very much for that ticket. Was that a curious little tale, wasn't there, called called What to Know? The Story of Chad, the world's first meme before the word meme even existed. Nearby to the village of Easington in Gloucestershire, not far from the M5 and the Stroudwater Canal, is a grave. I'm going to be having a look at a grave shortly here as well. And it was a grave of a gentleman who invented a Chad, a little character who popped his head over a brick wall. And then it was used during the Second World War as kind of a little, well, affirmation of things that were missing, like bananas and that sort of thing. I had a comment on that from, I think it's a gentleman called Darryl, I think, who lives in the United States of America. What an iconic little cartoon character. My father-in-law was stationed in England during World War II. He brought home several photographs of the little guy. Wonderful knowing where it all began. The gravestone is especially remarkable. Yes, so it is George Chatterton. He was known as Chaz, but the character was known as Chad. And it's wonderful to see that gravestone there in the village of Easington. Now, Sevenhampton was originally called Sevenhampton, and I've got to look this up because I can't remember it. It's quite tricky to remember, so excuse me, I look at my notes on this. It means the town of the dwellers at a place called Seven Wells or the like. Yes, that's quite a strange one. I think Highworth was a lot simpler, wasn't it? The parish church is surrounded by earthworks, marking the site of a medieval settlement, possibly including an earlier church. So literally, that is the land behind me where the cows are now. So I'm not going to wander across the ha-ha, but you can see that the ground is quite tumpy, which gives you an indication that there was a previous settlement in this vicinity. The church here of St James isn't an old church. It was actually built in 1846 by an architect called W. Pedley. So is it in that kind of style that they had there, kind of in an early English style, but it's not an early English church. But it's still quite an unusual style. It's very different to the style that we saw earlier on in the video at Highworth, and it has a lot of character as it is surrounded by the Sevenhampton parkland. Now near here is a house called Wanford Place. In those days, it was actually known as Sevenhampton Place. There is a separate large country house called Sevenhampton House, which is 17th century. But Wanford Place was actually restored by Lord Banbury at the turn of the 20th century, and later on a famous novelist that you will have heard of, almost certainly, by the name of Ian Fleming. Yes, he, the creator of the James Bond films. He lived in that house and is buried in this very churchyard. We'll go and have a look at that now. So this here is Ian Fleming's gravestone. Other members of the Fleming family also buried in the same site. We'll just have a look at the inscription on this side, but it's a wonderful setting here at Sevenhampton Churchyard in Wiltshire, as I say, very close to where he lived. The inscription on the gravestone reads, born 28th of May 1908 and died 12th of August 1964. So he survived for 2 years, I think, after the first Bond film, which was Dr. No in 1962. Sean Connery, of course, starred as James Bond in that particular outing for the film. And it says, Omnia perfunctus vita primea Mateus. My Latin isn't very good. It's a long time since I did Latin. I'll put a translation of what that is along the bottom of the screen there. But yes, there we go. Ian Fleming's grave here at Sevenhampton in Wiltshire. Now, my canal series is some of the most popular videos on the channel on West Country Wanderings. And this was no exception this time around. We actually had 3 videos, I think it was. The first of which was looking for a lost canal, the Leinster Canal Part 2. If you remember, a few months ago I went up to the area where kind of Herefordshire, Worcestershire and the Shropshire counties all meet, looking for the not very well known canal, which was going to link the town of Stourport-on-the-Severn, on the River Severn of course, down to the Herefordshire town of Kington. I think that's the right way around, not Knighton. Yeah, Kington. The Knighton's the Welsh one, isn't it? But so in part 2 there, we uncovered, was it 3 tunnels? Two or three tunnels anyway. I was looking for another one, which I couldn't find the portal for that. Oh, and that magnificent aqueduct, which was probably the highlight of it, the one that goes over the River Rhea. I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm never quite sure, had a great comment on that from Ron, who runs a wonderful channel called Abandoned Railways. If you're interested in your old railway lines, why not check out Ron's channels? He's done some brilliant videos on that. That was epic, with a great reward for all your efforts. What a beautiful structure. Yeah, that aqueduct was amazing. Now thankfully filmed and photographed for posterity. Can I recommend waders and a machete for those hard to reach places? Yeah, some of it was particularly difficult with very, very boggy ground and lots of bramble. There will be a part 3 to the Leominster Canal because there's still some bits I've yet to still discover and lots more to see. So that'll be coming up in the new year. There was a few outings into Devon and Cornwall this month as well. And also I did a walk to Elbury Cove, not that far from the town of Brixham. It was a lovely sunny evening. I filmed it, I think it was in mid-September, and the sunlight was absolutely glorious. I love Elbury Cove. It's a tremendous place there. And you have that, what is possibly, but nobody knows for absolute certainty, Lord Churston's bathhouse, which is a 3-storied building at the end of the beach, but no one has got any photographs to say that it was like that, but that is the thought of it anyway. A comment from David on that one from Spain. This is a really interesting comment. Thank you for this, David. The sea was a mill pond, not a wave in sight. The light looked hazy. What we call in Spain calima. That's really interesting. I've never heard of that word before. Thank you for that, David. Due to sand being blown into the air from the Sahara. Yes, I think we are familiar with that when sometimes you get up in the morning and you find your car covered in a light dusting of sand. But yeah, calima, that's a great word, which fits in with the heat wave that you have been having. Great ending with that Brunel Viaduct. So yes, you've got those Hook Mills, I think it's called the Hook Mills Viaduct above the beach of Broadsands there. Thanks very much for that, David, and thank you if you watched and commented on that video. We also had another one in the further southwest part of the West Country Wanderings region, a trip to Cornwall, and I haven't done Cornwall for a little bit. There's a few more videos to come up from Cornwall. This one, though, was around the town of Liskeard. Now, doing towns is really difficult, particularly with Liskeard, because it has 2 busy roads that go through it, and it's a lot of traffic noise around there. So I decided to do it really early on a Saturday morning before people getting up. I think it was about 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was delighted to see a wonderful sunrise in that video when I was walking through the site of the former cattle market there. And Louise from Southwest Sundays gives me a great comment on that. So many fascinating facts and some lovely buildings. Yes, it's a much underrated southeast Cornwall town. I definitely think that. That veggie cafe sounds like they do yummy food. They certainly do, Louise. And the sunrise was the icing on the cake. Yeah, I see what you did there, Louise. That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that comment. But yeah, so I've had some interesting comments on Twitter as well. So I do have a Twitter account, which isn't just for my YouTube things, other things as well. But you're welcome to hop along there. So it's Paul at West Country Wanderings, I think. I can never remember what the handle bit is. I'll put it in below anyways. Called X now, isn't it? And it was picked up by the Liskeard Tourist Information Board and the local bookshop as well, and they shared it on their Facebook group, so it's doing quite well, the views on that particular video. Now, I like to do link-ups with other YouTubers from time to time, and there was one that happened recently in the town of Bridgnorth, which was organised again by Alice Goss. She has a great travel channel, all places across Europe, really well worth looking at. And she met up with some other YouTubers, including a gentleman who wrote the comment on the next video. The next video was the Stridewater and Thames and Severn Canals update number 14A. Whew, yes. That had been the first one for a while, and we looked at Westfield Lock and the problems with the planning, more about that, because 15 landed as well. And I had a great comment on that from a gentleman called Millionaire Paul, who's also a YouTuber, and met up with Alice on there as well, along with Howard's channel, who I've met previously in Coventry with Alice, and Mike and Theresa as well, who have met previously in the town of Shrewsbury. And he writes, superb. I did quite a lot of that with the Shrewsbury and Newport. That's the Newport that's in Shropshire, not the one that's in Gwent or the one on the Isle of Wight. Canal restoration, so can really appreciate the work that's gone on here. Yes, so thank you very much, Paul, and I'll put a link to your channel in the description of today's. The next one was a return to the Severn Way 21. Yes, this was a journey from Gloucester Docks around to Upper Framilode. Now, just to let you know, there's been a lot of flooding recently, particularly places like the usual suspects. Upton upon Severn and Bewdley and Tewkesbury have been hit again, so I think it might be a little while before I can get back on the Severn Way. We need a few more days like this to dry the land out before I'm going to attempt that again, but it will happen. I can't say when I'm going to arrive in Bristol, though. It'll happen when it happens. A lovely comment on that from John Timbrell, because I spoke about the Severn Bore, that natural phenomenon which affects only 4 other rivers across the United Kingdom. And he writes, the Severn Bore, the leading wave attracts all the attention. It certainly does with all the surface, doesn't it? But I find the following water more amazing. The river's height has increased instantly by up to 5 feet. Yes, so that when you get that first leading wave, the water level has suddenly gone up, right up, because the channel has narrowed in such a short space of time, which we saw in that video to great effect. As we left Gloucester, you could see how much the river had widened by the time we got to Upper Framilode. Thank you, John. Now, Wallingford Place, which was the residence that was lived in by Ian Fleming, which I'd mentioned earlier in the vlog, is today, as far as I'm able to ascertain, is now owned by, or since 1997, one Patrick McNally. Now, I've not come across that before, but if you follow Formula One motor racing, you probably know the name. He owns lots of the racing teams. He's a billionaire and owns lots of other properties around the world, Caribbean, usual places in Switzerland for tax reasons, that sort of thing. But Patrick McNally lives in Wallingford Place now, which is just the other side of this churchyard. But you can't get a view of it. It's kind of covered in trees, but I'll insert a photograph from the internet now. In 2005, though, that property was robbed. A notorious gang of thieves who were later arrested not that long ago, but they went around lots of country houses stealing what they could. But I think some of what they were stole from that particular house has since been found. I had a surprise visit similar to my Lanterney Abbey one. My auntie likes taking me out on mystery tours, and this time was no exception. She took me to the magnificent Whitley Court, which lies in northern part of Worcestershire, not far from Kidderminster and Stourport-on-Severn. I'd never been there before. I vaguely heard about it, but what a place it was. It was a video I shot just using one lens and using photography and videography, and just capturing those tremendous fountains there. I had a great comment on that. It seems to have gone down really well, that video, from a lady called Linda. Thanks for opening my eyes to the wider West Country. Yes, I do include Herefordshire and Worcestershire in the region I cover because they make up the 3 counties. Although officially they're in the West Midlands, they are still very much in the West, and they are very rural counties rather than the West Midlands with the capital letters that makes up the urban area around Wolverhampton, Coventry and Birmingham. I live in Australia now, having grown up in Lichfield, Staffordshire, just to the north of aforementioned urban West Midlands. My knowledge was limited to the Cotswolds and Bath, but we never really visited either properly. My visits were just on the M5 to Weston-super-Mare, Cornwall. I'm amazed by how much I missed, and I will return to these places when I revisit. Thank you very much, Linda. Yes, that is one of the reasons I like doing this channel, to bring you places you probably haven't heard of before or don't know. So I do ones you will have heard of, but also ones you probably haven't heard of. Maybe you haven't heard of Highworth or Sevenhampton. I hadn't really heard of them much before either, but yeah, so that's one of the main purposes of the channel. Now, just looking back at my notes, I realised it's been quite a busy month. It's been a very wet month in the month of October. It's been really difficult. It's nice today, actually, getting out in the Vog, and it's lovely and quiet here in Sevenhampton. But the next video to land was another one in my Cornwall series, and this was from southeast Cornwall again, at a place called Seaton, not the one in Devon. I will go there because there is a tramway there. I do want to visit that and explore more of the Jurassic Coast, so hopefully do that in next year in 2024. But yes, there was a walk to Downderry, which I did with my daughter. We caught the bus there and caught the bus back from Downderry, and I had a great comment from a gentleman called Sean, who does, I think he lives either Exmoor, Dartmoor, can't remember. I know it's one of the moors, and he really loves nature and walking outside, and I really follow his Facebook group, which is really good. So yeah, if you put in Sean Spencer, it'll probably come up because he's got quite a few followers on his group there. And he writes, when I was walking the southwest coast path, I got caught out by the tide coming in and had to scramble over the rocks to get back onto the path again. Not easy with a heavy backpack, and my dog too. Oh yeah, so I'm glad you managed to scramble out, but Yeah, so when you're walking the South West Coast Path, when you're exploring the beaches, it's so easy to get caught out by the tide. You think, I'll walk out a bit further to the shoreline, and then you realise you're stuck in like an island of sand and you can't find your way back apart from scrabbling over rocks. So yeah, be very, very careful when you're doing that, wandering off the main path, and check the tide tables as well. The next video was one of my Devon series looking at Charles Church, that strange phenomenon of a church stuck in the middle of a roundabout. Well, it's really good that it is a monument to all the lives that were lost in Plymouth, the bombing of the Second World War, and it's good that it's still there. But yeah, it's difficult getting access to it. I kind of had to look at the traffic lights and found there was a 10-second gap, that's all, to get across. I think it was 4 lanes of traffic. I know it's going the only one way, and then kind of run across while the lights are all on red, and then wait again for 5 minutes to come back the other way again. But I'm delighted I did, because I always wanted to see what the church looked like, and we had that plaque telling about the connection to Cornwall in that as well. I had a great comment from a gentleman called Chance Summers. Hooray, my hometown. I don't remember the church looking so overgrown inside. I read a lovely story in the Herald. The Herald is the local newspaper for Plymouth and surrounding areas. Many years ago, it was written by a lady that had got married at Charles Church. Oh wow. So this is before it had been bombed, of course, in the 1920s. And she had to walk through fields to get there. Oh, that's incredible, isn't it? Walking through fields. Can't imagine that now. It's very, very urban with lots of traffic coming, going all directions. Thank you very much, Sam. That's a really interesting comment. And just to wrap this up, this month was the Stroudwater and Thames and Severn Canal update number 15. It's been really, really popular on this one. And I went into detail about the planning, what the problems are with that. And I had a great comment on that from Andrew G. We were walking along the canal recently and saw the work that had been done by the Dame. Yeah, it's magnificent, that lock there that's been cleared. I didn't know that the work had been carried out by the new owner of the Wharf Cottage. All credit to him. Great improvement. Cheers from Germany. Thank you very much, Andrew, and thanks for the many, many people who have commented on that video, and also the comments I've received from the Cotswold Canals Trust and the Cotswold Canals Connected group. They thanked me for giving people their updates. There is one more video which haven't had chance to read comments on yet, because it only went up this morning, and that was the one on Whitney Blankets, one of my short bites photography series. There may be another video that lands before the end of the month, so I'm filming this on the Thursday. I think the last in the month is Tuesday the 31st of October, so there might be one more, but that is it for the month of October here on West Country Wanderings. What's happening next month? Well, I may get in another 7-way. There will be a railway series. I'm going to film some steam trains hopefully over the weekend, so that'll be landing soon. I hope to do a Lost Railway walk, so getting in some more railway content, and maybe revisit back to the Wilts and Berks Canal. So lots of canal and railway stuff. There'll be a couple more sharp butts. I've still got some Devon and Cornwall edits to my visits down there in September and October, so that'll be happening too. I'm not sure about that 7-way, and probably, hopefully, a Cotswold walk. So when it's a drier day, hopefully we'll be able to get back into the Cotswolds and show you some walks around that beautiful part of the West Country Wanderings region. Thank you very much if you've watched any of my videos this month, for the month of October. It goes so quickly each month. I try to get in as many, I think that was 14 videos in total, so not bad considering it was a very wet month. Thanks for your comments. Thanks very much if you'll share the videos. Until next time, West Country Wanderings, take care of yourself, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you on channel again very, very soon. All the best for now. Bye-bye.